thing which I did notice, and I just want to double check if that's okay.
Yeah.
So if I just get you to focus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So another thing is that you've got some areas of significant lightening. So your eye is the same colour, it's brown, but then there are some areas where the pigment's actually much lighter. So having a brown or a hematogenic eye means that it's really difficult to see individual fibres. So in blue eyes, for example, it's really easy to see the fibres and the way that they actually separate. But in brown eyes, that tends to not be quite as simple.
Oh, that makes sense. Yes.
But what I have noticed with your eye is that we sort of have this blanket over it and signify congestion and problems with elimination.
Yes.
So because of that brown blanket, it's quite hard to see fibres, but I can see pigmentation and changes in pigment. And you do definitely have some areas which are a bit lighter. Where we see that in particular is through the liver zone again. So I'll just point out the liver zone. So again, our liver on the right eye is up through here. So we've got the liver. So the gallbladder runs alongside.
And the bile duct.
Exactly, because remembering that the iris reflects certain organs of the body, so it's reflective of where those organs would sit in the body. So that's around about the position of where we find our liver and come up to the lungs. So essentially that is, again, an area where we would probably look at it being a nurture point because we've got a change in the pigmentation. And the pigmentation is also quite orangey, sort of yellowy in colour. So that indicates, again, some issues with, digestive enzymes, digestion, movement, elimination, detoxification, those same sorts of issues. It really is about the fact that if we don't have a proper circulation to a particular area, then we're much more prone to inflammation and irritation in those areas. So that change in pigmentation and the lightening in pigmentation through the liver can suggest inflammation, irritability, and I guess reduced organ function because of those things. So liver support is something that we can look at, and ways that we can help support that with supplements, herbs, and dietary changes and things like that. So we can look at that.
It's good to know.
Now the other thing which I can see in your eyes, just without even needing a magnifying glass, is that you have what's referred to as a scurf ring. And I will show you a picture of what a scurf ring looks like. And basically, what a scurf ring is here we go, sorry. What a scurf ring is just a ring or a rim on the outside of your eye.
Oh, scurf ring.
Yeah, scurf ring. So it's just a ring on the outside of the eye, and it's actually visible to the naked eye. The very outside of your iris represents is your skin. So a scurf ring is quite indicative of skin issues. So remembering that we've been talking about all of the organs of elimination, and the skin is, also an organ of elimination. So it's an organ of cleansing and elimination. So it's another way that the body can eliminate or detox, and eliminate toxins. So do you find that you tend to get rashes, particularly under the breast bone, armpits?
Sometimes,
You do? And
sometimes like, what do you call it, a rash? Fungus.
Okay. And again, fungal infections like Candida are very much related to dysglycemia. So to that, having excess sugars circulating and not actually moving through, because Candida is basically a result of fermentation. So again, we can see all of those connections. And I think with your scurf ring and the fact that you do get some rashes, then we need to look very much at elimination, but also the health of your skin. So do you find that your skin gets quite dry and scaly? Okay.
Especially as we get older.
So hydration is really important in these circumstances where we need to, again, like you were saying, if you get a little bit of discharge with the urine and your kidneys came up as a sign as well, we need to make sure we're drinking plenty of water. lots of clear fluids, and lots of lovely warming
that's what I
sort of
find,
detoxifying teas, calming sort of teas and
yeah.
those sorts of things.
That helps. Yes.
Yep.
try to
Yep.
Do that. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yes.
Okay.
Keep on top of things.
Now, another thing which I noticed, and I will just have another quick look just to be sure. If you could just focus on my forehead, please. I'm just going to lift your eyelid again, just gently, because it's quite hard for me to see underneath. Yeah, that's great. So what we have there on the right eye is what's referred to as an upper arcus. And it's right under your eyelid. It's quite hard to see. It's right at the top. Again, I'll show you what an upper arcus looks like. So as you can see here, it's this whitening sort of ring at the top. So it sort of looks like the pigment of the iris is pushed down a little bit. Yeah. So basically what an upper arcus can represent is a lot of the things that we've already been talking about. So the upper arcus might be representative of reduced circulation up into that head zone. So it's at the top and it represents the very top of our body, which is our head and our brain. So the upper arcus has traditionally been considered something to do with aging. So it's a natural thing which can progress with aging. But what it can also suggest is a potential predisposition to things like Alzheimer's and dementia.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, and you've already mentioned that you get quite foggy and vague in the head. Have you ever had any other issues to do with your head, brain, zone?
I think that, what's it called at the back? Something, I can't remember what it's called. Something here at the back of the base of the brain. Yep. I can't remember. I was diagnosed with that.
Okay, and what does that do? What are the symptoms? What's the
said yes. Well, it could affect my movement. My body.
So is it a nervous condition? Like a neurological...
Yes,
okay.
That's right.
Right, so considering that, we can maybe, if you can, in our next session, you can bring me the details of that, then we can actually, if you can bring me the scans and the MRI, so we know, I know exactly what it is you're referring to, but based just on that, that's okay, we can look at it next time, but based just on that, we obviously then need to really work hard at getting the brain muscles working, the brain cells and all of the brain neurons firing really well, so that we keep the brain young. So it's that's also another really important way of getting good circulation up to the brain. So the upper arcus is a really nice preventative sign to show us that this is an area that you need to nurture and be a little bit more aware of. So it's really important to engage in things like brain training games. So, you probably hear people talk about doing crosswords and things like that, but those things can be really helpful. So on a day-to-day basis, doing things like that. Moving your body in regular exercise is also a really good way to get blood circulating up to the brain. It's also a really good way to get plenty of fluid into you because you tend to sweat a little bit and you want to drink a lot more. So, hydration is also really important for that.
And lots of things I can do, isn't it?
Well, I guess you're probably doing a lot of these things anyway, but this is just a way of helping to consolidate, what you're already doing or other things we need to, The other thing about the upper arcus is that it can be indicative of some mood issues. So do you find that you do go through periods of depression or feeling particularly low? Right, okay, so that can be indicative of the upper arcus can be indicative of that as well. And I guess the other thing about the upper arcus is that a corneal arcus, so some people actually have it all the way around, you don't, but a corneal arcus in general, or any part of the arcus showing, can actually be indicative of an increased likelihood of things like arteriosclerosis, which is hardening of the arteries, and arterial blockage. So do you know if have you ever had any problems with your arteries hardening or blocking, or do you have any family history of things like that?
Oh, I do have family history.
Okay.
My parents, yes.
Right, okay.
Hardening of the arteries.
Both of your parents?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that's definitely a nurture point for you. Yeah. So you're not showing symptoms of angina or anything like that.
Not so far.
No.
Thank
Okay,
goodness.
great.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. I guess another thing to consider with those sorts of things as well is just to keep a really good eye on your blood pressure all the time.
Yes.
Because as I mentioned...
Well, I do take a half.
Oh, you take blood pressure medication.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you have high blood pressure or low blood pressure?
Oh, well, at the moment it's
yeah, but you started taking the medication for...
High blood pressure.
High,
yes.
okay. Yeah, so again, remember we talked at the very beginning about the hematogenic eye and how that can have a lot to do with circulation. So keeping on top of your hypertension or your high blood pressure is really important. Yeah, and it's good that you're being medicated, but we can also work on that with diet and lifestyle and managing it naturally as well to sort of support and supplement that.
Rather do is try and keep it under control.
Yeah, exactly right.
So diet,
exercise.
Lifestyle.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Great, okay. Now the final thing that I notice in this eye is what's referred to as contraction furrows. And I will show you again what a contraction furrow looks like. So contraction furrows, really these show... we can see them here, and yours actually look a lot like this. So when I see a contraction furrow, what I look at is the density of it, whether it's really, really white, whether it's another colour, whether it's thick, and where they are in the iris. So yours look a lot like that. They're quite pale, they're white. And we see them in certain areas throughout the iris. So what a contraction furrow in general means is that it's basically affecting the delivery of nutrients to that area. So again, a contraction furrow is sometimes referred to as a nerve ring. Yeah, so we were talking about the relationship between the autonomic nervous system and the organs. So this is sort of similar in the same way, and even similar to our radial furrows, where a contraction furrow is sort of showing that we have nervous tendencies through a particular area. And when something's nervous, it's jittery, it's spasmodic, the muscles kind of cramp, the organs move around a lot, and those sorts of things. So it basically can cause things like tension pain in organs where we find them, and increased susceptibility to anxiety. And in terms of, I guess, the nervous sort of tension. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you say your anxiety levels are on a day-to-day basis?
I'd say I am an anxious person, but I do try and take, like B group vitamins and other, magnesium and that to control my my anxiety.
That's good, because magnesium deficiencies are definitely something that your type of eye, your constitution, which is your build-up of the eye, is definitely something that which is often deficient. On that scale of 1 to 10, what would you say your anxiety is now? Because what I'd like to do is use this as a guide as we progress with future sessions to try and get that anxiety down.
Yes. Well, I don't know. I think it's in between, halfway.
That far?
Yes.
6?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. Yes.
All right, so we'll work on that.
Okay.
Okay. The only other thing about your contraction furrows is that we see them quite evenly dispersed up through that vitality zone, so that's no surprise. That's that the same area that keeps popping up for you. There are also some down in through the liver, which again is no surprise because we see that there. So I noticed them before because they were really prominent. But just let me have another quick look and see if you've got them anywhere else. Yeah, you also have some contraction furrows, like I said, through the liver, but you also tend to have some up sort of around the bronchial area. I'll just show you on the chart where that is. So in through here, so where you've got your lungs, the bronchioles, and you can see that's actually adjacent to the heart. So that's also significant. So when we look at contraction furrows, we look at where it runs through, but also the organs that it's adjacent to. So do you find that you ever have respiratory
I don't
complaints? Okay, so you struggle to get really good deep
my
breaths.
nose gets blocked and I feel as if
So when you mentioned that you can be quite an anxious person. When you do get anxious, where do you feel that? Like, does it does it kind of manifest as like a tight chest or butterflies in the tummy or
tight chest? I think.
tight chest. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
mainly.